Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball. Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
Trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding that. It's over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is the next day. It is 2 p.m. Friday afternoon as I record. It's Friday the 18th. So I will say thank God I didn't record this episode after the game last night. Because if I didn't have those 12, 13, however many hours it's been since that game ended, I'd, probably be dropping an episode that I regret. But I've had the night to sleep on it. I've had the morning to think on it. And I have to say, though, while this is probably going to be way more rational of an episode than it would have been had I recorded one last night, I didn't feel that much better waking up in the morning. And I'll go a step further and say I still don't have my confidence and Yankee arrogance back. I've been humbled. I don't know, man. I just feel like that's one that's going to be very difficult to come back from. Losses like that, and I know, people immediately going to, 09, Game 3, extra inning loss in LA. That was the 09 team. My confidence has been completely zapped. I'm not going to lie to you. And maybe that's irrational thinking. But if I'm an Indians fan, if I'm a Guardians fan, I'm talking to myself into everything right now. Like, momentum has shifted. We hit 2 big home runs after their 2 big home runs. We still have 2 games yet to go before we go back to the Bronx. Is it that much of an overreaction to say that a team who the Yankees just beat out for the number 1 seed can win a series against them down 2-1 with 2 games still left at home? Is it that crazy? Not to mention that the Yankees have a beat-up bullpen with 2 more days of baseball in a row, and they have a rookie pitcher going tonight who's got command issues, and this is a guy who hasn't thrown in 3 weeks. Cleveland's going to be ready for that. They're going to be stacking lefties on him. So if Heel doesn't have his command against those left-handed hitters where he's going fastball on the outside corners, changeup down and out, slider going down and in perfectly. If he's not perfectly locating inside the zone, outside the zone, it's going to be a long night for the Yankees. And it might be a long series the rest of the way. This is the game that I think decides the series now. I mean, we're talking about a Cleveland team who was also, I believe, down 2-1 in the best-of-5 Detroit series. Don't give that team confidence, especially when they still have 2 left at home. And you just gave them confidence. I mean, people, myself included, not going to lie, were acting like the Yankees were up 3-0 entering last night's game. And if they were up 3-0 and a loss like that happened, I'm probably really fine with it. I'd be annoyed, But I'm perfectly fine with that because it's still 3-1 and you have a bunch of games left to capitalize. But it's a 2-1 series, guys. It's now a series. Now you're going to see what the Yankees are made of tonight. Are they able to throw it away, flush it, and just start a new game? We'll see. Because if you want to be positive, which is not always my speed, then at least you can say that last night's game was encouraging because the Yankees didn't just lie down and die. You could say the old Yankees would have lied down and died there because the Yankees got to Class A, who's not been perfect this postseason. They got to him. Tough pitches. They got to him. Judge had his legacy moment, but he's homered in back-to-back games. Big ones. Stanton continues to mash. You can look at that. The Yankees came back after being dead all game, late in the game. They weren't doing anything against their lefty pitching. Boyd shut them out. He was dicing them up. Their bullpen was pretty good. Torres remained solid. He had the big sac fly to cut the game to within 2. And you could tell yourself that the Cleveland bullpen has they're also a little bit taxed at the moment. And while Heel hasn't pitched since September 28th, Gavin Williams, some random plumber on the mound for Cleveland tonight, hasn't thrown since the 22nd. So it's been about a month for him. And you can talk yourself into, maybe this long layoff will benefit Luis Heel because he was kind of running low on fumes in September there. So that's the positive side of it, that if you want to choose to run with, you can. Personally, I'm going with the former. It's hard for me. Like I'm a pessimist more than I am an optimist. I wouldn't say I am a pessimist. I would say I'm trying to be. I feel like I've gotten better over time at not just being a total pessimist, but a loss like this kind of reverts me back to my old self. It's going to be hard for me to believe in this Yankees team after witnessing the garbage that went down last night, the choke job, the epic loss that occurred last night. I'll say that. Let's head to break and we'll recap this game and talk about it.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.
All right, the Yanks blow Game 3 and they make it a series. A 7-5 loss last night in 10 innings of ALCS Game 3. You had the righty Schmidt going up against the lefty Boyd last night. I listened to a good portion of this game on my phone because I was working because, for some reason they choose to put the New York friggin' Yankees on a 5 p.m. peasant time. So I didn't watch the entire game. I watched the important parts when I got home. I got to watch it as opposed to listening. But top of the second inning, your first run comes across. Trevino base hit 1-0 Yankees. This was the same inning with the Jose Trevino pickoff, which we'll talk about. Bottom 3, Manzardo hits the 2-run shot off Clark Schmidt. Makes it 2-1 Cleveland. Schmidt was pretty bad. He's been underwhelming in my opinion this postseason. Cleveland stacked lefties up against him. They hit him hard. A lot of hard contact, some extra base hits, a lot of traffic on the bases. I don't have much input on how he looked, so we're not really going to dive into his performance individually in this episode. Because, again, I was working for Clark Schmidt. I didn't get to see any of his pitches. But it didn't seem like he was very great. Bottom 6, Jimenez hits the RBI base hit, 3-1 Cleveland. Top 8, obviously you get the moment. Judge and Stanton go back-to-back versus Clase, the legacy moment that if the Yankees won this game and if they go on to win the World Series, this is a moment that's talked about forever. But it makes the Yankees up, puts the Yankees up 4-3. Judge ties it. Stanton gives them the lead. Top 9, Gleyber Torres sac fly, 5-3 Yanks. This was the inning with the Volpe play, which we'll talk about literally in 1 second. Bottom 9, obviously the big Christmas home run by Noel, I think his name is. That's against Luke Weaver, ties the game at 5. Bottom 10, Holmes is in. Fry hits the walk-off home run, 7-5 win for Cleveland in 10 innings. I want to start by, I think we started last episode by talking about the disgraceful fundamentals that continue to haunt this Yankees team. And how many times do we make this a subtopic on these episodes? You know, you could go back and review these episodes over the course of this season. I feel like we talk about it all the time. All year this year. All year last year. All year the year before. All year 2021. All year 2020. All year 2019. All year in 2018. The entire Boone regime has been a clusterfuck of disgraceful fundamental baseball. Because they just don't care. That's the mentality they have about the little things. They don't really emphasize that. They don't really value that. They don't talk about it. They don't even acknowledge it. Do you actually believe that these consistent base running and defensive miscues over 162 plus games is a coincidence for 7 consecutive years? That's crazy. It's because they simply don't value it. It's that simple. It's not the way they think, and it's just not the way they approach baseball. The Yankees focus on hitting, pitching, matchups, and the numbers game. There's not much focus there on bunting, fielding, base running awareness, tagging from third, going to first and third on a double, making a read on a fly ball. There's not much thinking there. That's why they always go on contact. There's nothing sophisticated about the way they run the bases. They're the worst base running team metrically in baseball. They have metrics for that now. And it's been that way the entire Boone regime. They cannot run the bases. And you knew it was just going to happen in the postseason. We talked about it here with our guests that we hit on for our 3 previews. Game 2, it's Jazz and Rizzo. And then last night, it's Trevino and Volpe. Top of the second inning, it's a scoreless game with runners on the corners and 1 out for the Yankees. Right, Trevino hits the base hit, run scores, 1-0 Yankees. Now you got runners on first and third, and that's when Matthew Boyd picks off Jose Trevino with Torres at the plate. Trevino's caught in no man's land between first and second for the second out. Disgraceful. The Yankees go on to not score again in that inning when they should have scored again. Then you go to the top of the 9th with the Yankees up 1. Nobody out. Volpe's on first base. Verdugo's at the plate. Swings at the pitch. Maybe this was a hit and run. I think it was a hit and run. It's a grounder to the pull side. That's Verdugo. Grounder to second base. Volpe tries to get to third on this because it was a hit and run. But Jimenez makes a nice stop. And then he makes the throw to third base. And now Volpe's caught in no man's land between second and third. Now, Volpe's lucky because Jose Ramirez dropped the ball in the middle of the base path. So Volpe was ruled safe after the collision. But just not a smart play by Volpe. Rojas gave him the stop sign. But Volpe didn't pick his head up until he was midway through second and third. A disgraceful moment that would have costed them huge had Jose Ramirez not did what he did. Because Volpe ends up being safe and he ends up scoring on the Torres sac fly after that. But just disgusting. That's the only adjective I can find. It's just disgusting. Makes me want to vomit. It's the fundamentals. This team just doesn't have them. Even just the defensive concerns remain an issue for me too. Like all postseason, they've had some sloppy moments, but I'm worried about a lot of things defensively. This is not as much fundamentals, but like the Rizzo era was. I'm worried about catcher just being like Trevino's got a noodle arm. Bottom of the third inning, Jose Ramirez steals second base. The Yankees challenge it. It's upheld. He doesn't score, but bottom of the sixth inning comes, two more stolen bases off Trevino with Tim Meza in the game. Jimenez steals third base on Jose Trevino. He steals third base. His arm's so bad he can't get a run around at third base. And prior to that stolen base, Thomas steals second base, and he ends up scoring when Jimenez hits the base hit. That makes it 3-1. So Jose Trevino costing the Yankees runs because he has no arm. I joke about it all the time. I say Wells has a pretty weak arm, mediocre arm. Trevino doesn't have an arm. And then Rizzo makes the costly error in the bottom of the ninth. Or, again, could have been costly. Ramirez hits the ground ball to Rizzo. It's off a bad changeup from Weaver, but Rizzo can't handle the ball. This was a play he needs to handle. Now, it didn't haunt them because Weaver ends up getting that nailer double play. That fat slob wasn't even in the frame when the throw to first happened. But still, like the Yankee fundamentals, just defense on the bases, just the little things that don't show up on the stat sheets continue to be disgusting, an abominable disgrace. And I just don't know. That's why, like, if the Yankees do find a way to win this series, I don't know how confident I'll be in a Yankees-Dodgers World Series. Listen, I think the Yankees have the roster to match up with the Dodgers on paper, but I don't think they execute the little things well enough to get it done. So, that's the first topic I just wanted to hit on real quick. Aaron Boone taking a lot of flack last night. Is he losing touch? As the series progresses, I'm finding myself agreeing less and less with some of his decision making. Now I'm going to try to be rational. But, the lineup entering this game, when the lineup cards were released, it's, a punt lineup for what reason? The Yankees were winning games with the lineup they had the first 6 postseason games. But he gives Rizzo a day off, who has been hitting very effectively. He was great in the first 2 games at the plate. He gets the day off just because Boyd's a lefty. This is where I disagree with matchups, and I think you just have to ride the hot hand. And he goes to John Birdie to get the righty on lefty matchup, which I get it. You want as much righties in there against Boyd, but not for Rizzo. If you're going to put John Birdie out there, John Birdie should be playing for Jazz Chisholm because Jazz Chisholm hasn't really hit. Putting Jazz in the 5-hole there to split up the righties with Stanton at cleanup, also I didn't love that move. I think if you're going to put a lefty at 5, it's got to be Verdugo and Jazz at 9 because Verdugo's hitting, Jazz Chisholm's not hitting. He goes Trevino over Austin Wells to start at catcher. Listen, Wells has been awful. I think I still wanted him in there because he's a young lefty with defense at the very worst. He could just take pitches at the plate and then just play good defense. Trevino can't hit a lick, and he's very easy to run on, as we just mentioned. So I wasn't totally ready to ditch Wells just yet, but he has worn down in the dog days of the season. He's not been good since the beginning of September. And he's also, as you could see, he's continuing to struggle with major league velocity. The high fastball, and it really doesn't have to be a hard pitch. He struck out 93 up in the zone last night. Like, just bad at-bats. Again last night, late in the game. Just bad at-bats. So I'm trying, like, I understand from the managerial perspective there what you're trying to do with the lineup change in Game 3 yesterday. But I do understand the folks that were questioning it. What I was talking about also last episode is in terms of the bullpen, you know, Luke Weaver has definitely been overused. I've agreed with every time he's went to Luke Weaver, except for Tuesday's game. I felt you didn't need to use Luke Weaver there. It was unnecessary to go to him in a 4-run game with the day off on Wednesday anyway. He goes to him anyway. Again, I get it, right? It's the postseason. You have to be safe. You go with your best. You go with your best. But he was used again in this game when they actually needed him, right? And he didn't get the job done. Bottom of the 8th, he comes in with a couple guys on, 2 outs for Canely, and he gets Friday strikeout on 4 pitches. But bottom of the 9th comes. He hangs a changeup to Jose Ramirez. Fortunately, doesn't bite him too much. This was the E3 by Rizzo, but gets the double play. Later in the inning, Thomas with the double with nobody on base off of a mediocre fastball that he left a little up in the zone. And then you get the Noel at bat, the pinch hit game-tying home run when he hangs a changeup to him. 5-5 game. I think that's the signs of fatigue right there. When guys start leaving pitches up in the zone and Weaver's velocity has been a little bit slower lately, I think that's the sign of fatigue. Command and velo. Tuesday, he leaves the changeup up to Ramirez for a home run to make it 6-3. And last night, a fat changeup to Jose Ramirez, a bad fastball to Lane Thomas, and a fat changeup to Noel. So it's tough with Weaver now because they've seen him a lot, and obviously you're not going to do this now, but I think eventually this is something he has to work on the offseason with Blake. He might need a pitch that goes away from righties. Because right now he's just fastball change. He doesn't use his cutter enough. It's a good pitch, but he doesn't go to it enough. He's fastball changeup. And righties are just going to start hunting fastball changeup otherwise because they know a pitch is not going to go away to them. So I think he's going to have to work on throwing that cutter more, maybe add in a slider to the arsenal, a curveball, I don't know. But, you know, fastball, elevating a changeup against a right-handed hitter as a right-handed pitcher, not the greatest recipe. He left that pitch just straight over the plate. So, and then he goes to Clay Holmes in extras, Boone does, who is leaving the sinker up consistently in this. Bottom 10, Bo Naylor picks up a leadoff base hit on a first pitch sinker up in the zone. Rocchio with the sack bunt to move Naylor to second. And then Kwan also left his sinker up in the zone to him. Fortunately, gets a ground out, but Naylor goes to third with 2 outs. Fry comes to the plate. Clay Holmes leaves the sinker way up in the zone to Fry, and he slugs the walk-off home run to left field. I didn't love that pitch at all. This too was a hanger. He had Fry behind 1-2 in the count with 3 sinkers in a row. At that point, and Holmes has 1-2 his 4-seam this postseason a lot more. At that point, bust him in with the 4-seam. And if you don't want to do that, then go sweeper away. I didn't like going to a 4th sinker in a row there, 1-2 count. If you're going to go back to the sinker, you have to make sure that thing's going low and away. But that's a situation where I think you either have to bust them high and in or you go sweeper. I did not like 4 consecutive 2-seamers there. Regardless, again, Boone going to Holmes there, the theme all year, ever since Clay Holmes' hot start ended, has been we have to get Holmes away from those spots. Get him off the 9th inning, get him off extra innings, closing games, because his role, as we've seen since the demotion, is 6th to 8th inning. That's where he's best. But Boone goes to him in a tie game in extra innings, and it doesn't pay off. However, like, I'm not going to lie. I wanted Holmes in there for ground balls. Even when Weaver was in there and you saw the camera pan to Clay Holmes warming, I didn't hate it. I was like, you know what? Might have to bring him in now because he's a guy who gets ground balls and, you know, it's the postseason and you just want to keep the ball out of the air. So I didn't hate the move. I'm not going to lie. I will say what I'm very frustrated and annoyed with is where is Jake Cousins during all this, man? Where's he been? We have not seen Jake Cousins at all. He was used for 1 out in one of the divisional games. If he's still hurt or if he's not close to being 100%, okay. But let us know. Like, otherwise, if he's fine or if he's close to being 100%, where the hell is he? Because he was one of your best arms in the regular season. He was really good down the stretch for you. This is a kid with excellent stuff. He's got a wipeout slider with a very solid 2-seam at 95, 96, 97. So, you know, he's a guy who can go away from righties with the soft stuff, and then he can go in on the hands with that 2-seamer. There's just, there have been a lot of spots in this series where Boone could have went to Cousins, but he's worried about matchups, you know, lefty-righty, going change up with a righty to a left-handed hitter with Canely. Like, there were spots I thought Cousins should have been in there. Even for Meza in this game would have been good. Like, Meza's your punt guy. I don't know why he's punting in a 2-run game with Tim Meza. There have been so many spots this postseason where I thought Jake Cousins could have been effective, but he hasn't gone to him. So maybe he's still hurt, but like, give us some clarification because you said he was going to be ready by the divisional round. You used him for 1 out, and that was it. Granted, he didn't look great, but it was 1 out. Couple batters. On a bright spot, Aaron Judge is hot, and because of that, the offense has looked better this series. Judge has had a good series. You know, he had his first RBI in game 1. He had a big tack-on home run in game 2 to put the game away. And last night, obviously, he has the legacy moment where he saves his legacy. And what a fucking moment that was, right? I mean, man, did I feel... I was listening to the game on radio at this point, waiting for my ride home, and I just go crazy, and people are looking at me like on the sidewalks. Just like when the Yankees put Stanton and Judge together years ago in the 2017 winter, this was the idea, right? Years later, the idea was to get something like this. This was precisely what the plan was. So that was an awesome moment. I'm so happy for Judge to get that off his back, and I think he's going to be fine now. I do. He's got an 801 OPS this postseason all of a sudden. And if he stays hot, I think the Yankees can still take this series. It's not a coincidence that the Yankees have scored 16 runs in this series so far, and Judge has produced 6 of those runs. I don't believe that's a coincidence. So you get him hitting, and you combine that with the contributions from the other guys in this lineup. Stanton's been red hot. Torres has been awesome. Soto's been good. Volpe's been good. Verdugo's been fine. A lot of guys are contributing. You get Judge on top of that. Jesus. But you still have to start cashing in with runners in scoring position. That still remains an issue. The Yankees were, I think, 1 for 8 last night. Situational hitting is still a problem for them. This postseason, the Yankees are 9 for 60 with runners in scoring position. That's a 150 average. 8 base hits, 1 double, no triples, no home run. That's a 167 slugging percentage with runners in scoring position. That's a problem. They need to start cashing in on those moments. Or else they're doing nothing even if they pass this team. And that's it. We're going to cut this one short, 30 minutes in. We'll head to our final break, get back, and wrap it up with trivia, and that'll be that. The Yankees lose. Stay with us. We'll be right back in a minute.
You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right, welcome back to the show. Episode 726 of the podcast. The Yanks blow Game 3 in a potential series-altering loss. Hopefully not, but I don't have the most faith at the moment. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that makes me a hashtag fake fan. Let's wrap this up with our trivia. Okay, for this episode, our question of the day. When the Yankees won the 2009 ALCS, which three players led the team with 9 hits? When the Yankees won the 2009 ALCS, which three players led the team with 9 hits? All right, let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I'll give you a shout out in the next episode in front of all 2 of our listeners. So, appreciate you all tuning in. That's going to do it for this episode. The Yanks blow Game 3, make it a series. They make it a series. So, we'll see what happens tonight. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!